You're watching West Dakota Fox News at 9 with Anna Schleisman and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
It's very sad that there's people in this world that would do something, what we had to experience today. My hearts go out to the family members of those 4 victims.
Mandan police are investigating the deaths of 4 people at a business off Memorial Highway early this morning. They say the public is not in danger as they work to identify the victims and process the crime scene. Megan Hoffman reports.
It's been a long day for law enforcement here on scene at RJR Maintenance and Management in Mandan. What started as a typical medical call at 7:30 turned into much more once they arrived on scene. Mandan police say they were shocked about what they found when they arrived at the business Monday morning. The bodies of 3 men and 1 woman and no suspect.
These 4 people didn't do it themselves.
Mandan Police Chief Jason Ziegler says they are actively looking for a suspect, but says the public isn't in any danger at this time based on how the crime scene is contained. Throughout the day, people heading to the building looking to pay rent and do walkthroughs for rentals were surprised at what they came across.
I came here because nobody was answering the phone.
Ziegler says it's a rare type of crime scene, but wouldn't elaborate on what that meant.
Now we're trying to get in and processing the scene. It's quite a large crime scene, so it's not going to be something that's going to be easy for us to get in and do quickly. So as soon as we get the information, we'll be glad to share it.
He says at this point they're not releasing a time frame or murder weapon because it's an active investigation. Police are waiting on autopsies from the medical examiner's office to confirm the causes of death. In Mandan, I'm Megan Hoffman for your news leader.
The Bureau of Criminal Investigation is assisting on the case. Well, RJR is a family-owned and operated property maintenance and management company that's been in the Bismarck area for more than 20 years. They rent properties and storage units while advising and providing financial statements for their clients along the way. RJR moved into that building on 32nd Avenue Southeast in November of 2017. And mass murder is unusual but not unprecedented in North Dakota. The first recorded incident happened in 1893. Then in 1915, investigators found 6 bodies in a Niagara basement. Charles Bannon was hanged by a mob after murdering 6 members of one Schaefer, North Dakota family in 1931. The rope is still displayed in the Pioneer Museum. And from 1999 to 2017, there were 13 homicide cases with multiple victims. Well, Henry, hopefully you have some sunshine here in our future.
Yeah, it'll be here eventually. Tomorrow, weather, we're talking about slight chance of a little bit of precipitation due to a cold front, but otherwise things are looking not terrible as far as the weather is concerned across the first warn viewing area. Looking at SkyTracker radar, we are talking about some returns extending just near Grand Forks, extending into the Harvey area just south of Minot, and then into portions of western Roosevelt County in eastern Montana. So our precipitation chances will be in the forecast for tonight. Not expecting anything heavy, let alone everyone is not going to get precipitation at that, but the slight chance will still remain. More details on that later. Our temperatures are in the 30s and 40s. Wind out of the northwest now 5 to 15 miles per hour. Be on the cloudy side tonight, Anna, but our morning lows are going to be just slightly below freezing. Your complete forecast and more will be coming later in the news.
All right, we'll check back in, Henry.
We have right now 2 big caravans coming up from Guatemala. Massive caravans walking right through Mexico. And if they don't stop them, we're closing the border.
Well, officials say Mexico is starting to make changes to halt migrants, but it may not be enough. President Trump also instructed the U.S. State Department to cut off foreign aid to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Ray Bogan reports.
The Department of Homeland Security is trying to get a grip on what they're calling an overwhelmed border. Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen announced she's expanding migrant protection protocols. The measure returns immigrants to Mexico while they wait on pending immigration proceedings. She's also expediting the reassignment of 750 officers to assist the Border Patrol. The number of reassigned officers could ultimately go above 2,000. If the situation doesn't improve, the president could shut down the border as early as this week, a move the Border Patrol union supports.
It lets Mexico know that if they do not actually do something, if they don't play their part, then we're going to stunt their economy.
But closing the border would have a big impact on the U.S., too. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, the U.S. imported $347 billion of goods from Mexico in 2018. The U.S. exported $265 billion of goods, 67% of which goes by trucks traveling through ports of entry.
Instead of building a wall or closing the border or cutting off aid to these Central American countries, which is downright stupid, we should actually go in the other direction. We should choose compassion instead of cruelty.
Well, all of this as the American Civil Liberties Union is demanding the Inspector General investigate, quote, abusive and inhumane conditions at an El Paso Border Patrol detention center. ACLU says border agents deprived families, hundreds of families, of sleep and forced children to sleep on trash-strewn gravel and didn't provide adequate medical care, food, water, or clean sanitary solutions. Federal officials have apparently moved the migrants to undisclosed locations since the reports surfaced. Well, Mueller's investigation also still a hot topic as House Democrats are moving ahead with plans to authorize a subpoena to get the full unredacted report. They gave Attorney General William Barr until tomorrow to provide the full report, and the vote is planned for Wednesday. The committee will also vote to authorize subpoenas for 5 former White House staffers, including Steve Bannon and Reince Priebus. Barr is expected to publicly release a redacted version of the report later this month. Well, Facebook was also implicated in Russia's election interference, and CEO Mark Zuckerberg is calling for stricter regulation of, quote, harmful content, election integrity, privacy, and data portability. In an op-ed published Saturday, he said if governments and regulators update the rules, we could preserve the freedom of expression and protect society from broader harms. Facebook has faced a series of scandals from hate speech to criticism for spreading fake news, especially during national elections. Well, last week, we told you Bismarck State College was nationally recognized for their cyber defense education. Becca Smith talked with students and faculty to see what doors this opens for them.
The Cyber Defense Program at Bismarck State College has been designated as a National Center of Academic Excellence due to their technology and curriculum. Second-year student Darian Pearson says he chose Bismarck State College for this exact degree because no other schools in the state offer cybersecurity degrees.
You have room to breathe, but you also have the room to grow because you're doing things that are very advanced, especially in the second year.
Associate Professor of the Cybersecurity Program, Matthew Frolick, says this prestigious title is an honor as it is bestowed by the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security.
This kind of puts that stamp of approval with what we're doing for our students and in the community. It shows that we're recognized as leaders, especially in the Bismarck-Mandan area.
Frolick says this accomplishment gives incredible opportunities to students in the 2-year program who want to pursue government careers. I'm Becca Smith in Bismarck reporting for your news leader.
Work with the welfare of others always in mind.
Well, history was made at the state capitol as senators opened their day with a Hindu prayer from Rajan Zed, the president of the Universal Society of Hinduism. His message, delivered in Sanskrit and English, was simple: work for all, not one.
To me, it was a way to acknowledge that in North Dakota we have a diverse culture here, and let's embrace all of them as we move forward.
The House will hear an address from Zed tomorrow afternoon. Well, state workers didn't get a pay raise in 2017, but they will be in 2019. The Senate passed a House proposal giving workers a 2% raise in the first year of the biennium and a 2.5% raise in year 2. But there's a slight catch. The increases will have minimums and maximums. For 75% of state employees, this will result in an increase greater than 2%.
$120 is pretty significant for some of the people on the lower end of the pay scale. I think it amounts to in the range of 5 to 6% on the lowest case in the state. And while there aren't very many of those people, we need to acknowledge them.
Senator Rich Wardner says the state will cover increases in health care, and this package is a good compromise. The state Senate has narrowly rejected a House resolution to rescind the state's 1975 support of the Equal Rights Amendment. Sponsors say the deadline to ratify the ERA was 40 years ago and is no longer valid.
This amendment refers to sex. It does not refer in the wording to women. And we all know that what was meant as a woman 40 years ago doesn't mean that anymore. A lot of people don't even know what sex they are anymore.
HCR-37, to me, is a sharp stick in the eye of everyone who worked hard over the past 45 years to make laws more fair to men and women.
5 states, including South Dakota, ratified the amendment and then later withdrew their support. Well, the House rejected a resolution that would expand the state's higher education board from 8 to 15 members. It was a Senate compromise to Governor Doug Burgum's push to change the governance from 1 board to 2, hoping it would make North Dakota's colleges and universities more accountable. And the Senate voted down a bill to create new concealed carry licenses, allowing firearms at public gatherings. It would have required annual training equal to that of police and private security officers. Well, North Dakota sends about 200,000 barrels of oil by rail per day to Washington state, and their legislators are considering a bill to make that very difficult. It would require a low vapor pressure limit in the rail cars in an effort to make them safer. But North Dakota oil and gas lobbyists say that's not based on science, because a higher vapor pressure means it's better oil.
That's why people across the world demand Bakken barrels, because of its quality. And what you're doing there is you're devaluing that Bakken crude oil.
The Senate passed a bill to reimburse oil tax money to funds that the governor and others say have been shortchanged over the years. An amendment would transfer more than $64 million to the Common Schools Trust Fund this year, along with an additional $128 million to the Resources Trust Fund over several years. It now goes back to the House. And the Army Corps of Engineers has released a project proposal to perform maintenance on the Hess-Hawkeye pipeline system in McKenzie and Williams counties. The movement of sediment, sand, and rocks, called scour, can compromise the integrity of the pipeline. So the Corps is looking at the environmental impact of performing maintenance at Lake Sakakawea to alleviate these concerns. The draft is available at the Army Corps of Engineers website, and they're asking for public comment. Well, when cattle feed is up but slaughter weight is down, where's the discrepancy? Find out next.
And we've got nice conditions across the Bismarck-Mandan area, but we will have a few changes underway for tomorrow. I'll have your forecast in just a few minutes.
Reports show North Dakota cattle were well fed, but their weight at slaughter didn't reflect that. Jordan Verdadero met with a rancher to find out why.
Professionals say weather conditions this winter in the feedlot country led to lower carcass weights in cattle.
The weather's been cold, the feedlots got muddy and saturated in the fall, and they were never able to dry out. And those conditions just put stress on the animals, and they don't perform up to their normal standards.
Rancher Clark Price says the corn inventory this year was relatively low, but hay and distillery grain were high for the winter.
The maintenance requirements of an animal for feedstuffs, it goes way up, so you don't get as much gain. So yeah, you'll feed more feed, but in return you don't get as much gain out of the product because of the cold weather that the animals have to produce heat with.
Price added without free trade agreements, the industry doesn't have as much opportunity to be competitive in the market.
We're 38.5% tariff there, but on all in all, we're up pretty big on over year on Japan exports. So Korea as well, we're up on. Just good exports in beef, but we got world demand.
Efforts believes as the industry digs through the numbers that were just released, it will find yields and acreages from last year were higher than what ranchers and farmers expected. In Washburn, I'm Jordan Verdadero reporting for your news leader.
Well, there's some good news for some crops. The Agriculture Department is projecting North Dakota's staple spring wheat crop will be up 2% from last year at 6.7 million acres. The corn crop is forecast at a record high of 4.1 million acres, up 29%. Sugar beets, oil, sunflowers, barley, and flaxseed are also expected to increase. Soybean acreage is expected to fall 6% to 6.5 million acres. Decreases are also expected in durum wheat, hay, canola, dry beans, dry peas, chickpeas, lentils, and oats. Well, truckloads of donations from North Dakota farmers arrived in Nebraska today for flood-stricken producers. Volunteers delivered some 200 tons of hay, along with fencing supplies and household goods. They said people were gathered in towns along their route, waving and holding signs saying thank you and God bless.
Overwhelming is the word I've used a lot today after talking to people. It really fills your heart when you see people that appreciative. It's something we'll never forget.
Gillick said by the time they reached their destination, 1,000 people were lining the streets. Well, after this harsh winter, Senators John Hoeven and Kevin Cramer are urging U.S. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue to issue livestock disaster payments promptly to help ranchers recover and maintain their operations. Cramer also voted for a plan to make over $13 billion available to states and territories affected by recent natural disasters. He says the Democrats blocked it, but he's pushing for a bipartisan agreement. Well, let's hope the worst of all of these disasters are over, Henry.
Yeah, we can always hope so. For the time being, however, conditions are looking rather decent across the first warm viewing area. Starting out with your weather in motion for your Tuesday, we're going to be starting out mostly just slightly below freezing. Could be a little bit breezy with a west and northwest wind anywhere between 15 and 25 miles per hour. Also, some of us maybe wake up to a little bit of precipitation. Thankfully, not expecting anything heavy. But by the lunchtime hour, we should be at least in the low to mid 40s, but that wind is still going to be a bit brisk out of the northwest for tomorrow. It is all due to a cold front that pushes through the region. Now, looking at a few updates on the river stages, the Apple Creek near Minokan, unfortunately still experiencing minor flooding. Latest has it at 15.21 feet. Gonna hold there for a few days, but notice as we get into Thursday, it rises a little bit to just under 16 feet. Next, let's take a look at the Beaver Creek at Linton, which is also forecast to rise. Latest measurement has it at 13.36 feet, and that's minor flood stage. But unfortunately, as we get into Tuesday night, it's forecast to gradually rise to moderate flood level and kind of stay there, cresting at about 14.5 feet, which is going to continue, unfortunately, into the end of the week. The Cannonball River near Brean, thankfully, starting to see some decrease in the water level down to 10.68 feet. Still minor flood stage through at least late Wednesday, but at least by the end of Thursday, the forecast has it falling at least below flood stage. Right now, we've got a few returns stretching from Grand Forks into portions of north central North Dakota and into Roosevelt County in Montana. We'll have a chance of some light rain and snow showers for tonight for some of us, but accumulation not expected. Looking at the lower 48, we do have, of course, rain showers across the Pacific Northwest and down into California. But as far as our moisture is concerned, that will be coming later on. But for right now, highs today, we're near normal, near 50 degrees, 44 in Bismarck, 34 in Mobridge. So we are gradually going to fall to that freezing mark before you know it. Here's a look at your weather in motion. Going to have a few waves push through, bring us a slight chance of precip overnight for some. Here comes the cold front, and that will bring us precip chances for tomorrow as well. Not everyone is going to get rain and or snow showers, but the chances will remain in the forecast, and that's only going to be at 30%. Other than that, wait until the weekend, because Friday into Saturday and Sunday, we will be talking about temperatures in the 60s.
Sounds good, Henry. Well, a college student's tragic story is a cautionary tale. Details when we come back.
My daughter's name is Samantha Josephson. Don't ever forget her name. Samantha Josephson, shame on you.
A mother's world ripped apart when her daughter was murdered by 24-year-old Nathaniel Rowland. Samantha Josephson, a student at University of South Carolina, got into a vehicle thinking it was her Uber, but instead found herself with Rowland. Investigators said she was attacked with a sharp object.
I cannot fathom how someone could randomly select a person, a beautiful girl, and steal her life away. His actions were senseless, vile, and unacceptable.
Rowland is in custody and waived his right to attend Sunday's hearing. A funeral for Josephson is planned for Wednesday. Well, the Supreme Court denied a request to block a suit brought about by Planned Parenthood, so it can continue in the lower courts. Planned Parenthood accuses anti-abortion rights group the Center for Medical Progress of secretly filming employees talking about the sale of fetal tissue and releasing heavily edited videos. The defendant claims the suit suppresses First Amendment rights. Planned Parenthood insists it does not profit from the sale of tissue donations to medical research. An investigation by the Wall Street Journal prompted Care.com to remove 72% of daycare centers listed, right before the Journal was to publish a story saying many of those listed businesses lacked verification and proper licenses. Several caregivers with police records have been accused of crimes while caring for children or elders. Well, 387 measles cases have been confirmed in the U.S. this year, the second greatest number since its eradication in 2000. Now, the state health department says personal belief exemptions from vaccines in North Dakota climbed to nearly 1% in the last year, leaving 400 school children unvaccinated. Experts say more people are buying into false information online.
We are seeing more of a rise of people being vaccine hesitant. It's concerning that we could get a VPD outbreak or a vaccine preventable disease outbreak that's really easily prevented just because our vaccine rates aren't going up anymore.
The vaccine exemption rate in North Dakota has more than tripled since 2007. Well, if we ever get to move to Mars, our houses could be out of this world. If humans ever call Mars home, NASA thinks houses there could look like this one. The space agency picked 3 designs in its 3D printed habitat challenge. The mission includes plans to Mars, the moon, and possibly beyond. The 3 teams split a $100,000 prize and will now create a 3D print scale model of their homes for the next round with an $800,000 prize. Well, I don't know if I'd want to leave with this beautiful weather we have coming up here, Henry.
Yeah, most definitely. Got some nice weather later on this week, but your morning commute is going to call for temperatures near 30 degrees. Also, roads wet in and around the Williston area. Not expect anything significant, but there will be precip chances for tomorrow. 60s by the weekend.
Oh, that weekend looks beautiful.
It does.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.